Kevin Feige. Oh, by the way, this is our second movie story, okay? So for those of you who are just like, no, the page! We will get back to the page.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige finally says that Marvel will eventually recast Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. So, something that has been brought up on this show since literally the beginning of, hey, we love Chris Evans, we love RDJ, but you gotta recast him eventually. So
we sure have talked about that a lot.
Yes. Kevin Feige finally says that will eventually happen. So, this comes to us via Variety. Kevin Feige talks about how Marvel will eventually recast Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. He also talked about how other franchises have done it multiple times, including Superman, most recently with David Corenswet, and how right now they're searching for a new James Bond. And, you know, he even talked about like the difficulty it will be, because we all love RDJ as Tony Stark. We all love Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. But he did compare it to the difficulty of having to replace Sean Connery as James Bond. So, he talked about, look, it was tough, but it has been done before.
Yeah.
So, look, Feige, since Avengers Endgame, has had to learn a lot of lessons. Between, like, the stuff with Disney Plus, just like, so, look, clearly, there's been a rough time since Endgame, and Feige and everyone at Marvel has had to learn some lessons. And this was definitely one of them. Because Tony and Steve, look, as much as we can say it was the Marvel Universe, Tony and Steve were the main characters of the MCU during the Infinity Saga. And losing them has hurt the franchise. And a lot of people have compared it to The Office without Steve Carell. And look, these characters are bigger than just one actor. And a Marvel Universe needs a Steve Rogers and a Tony Stark. So, there's that. And you know what? I almost can't help but wonder. Maybe having No Way Home, 3 Peter Parkers together, 3 actors who gave 3 great performances, maybe having to recast the X-Men, maybe that kind of was something to make Kevin Feige think, you know, other actors can play these characters. So maybe that had something to do with it. Now, I'll say this. If Feige's already publicly talking about this, he already knows when he's going to recast them. Because I remember during the press tour for Deadpool and Wolverine, he talked about bringing back Robert Downey Jr. after Endgame, and then it was a couple weeks later that they did the Doctor Doom announcement. So if he's talking about it now, he knows when they're coming back. And I think that Avengers Secret Wars will either end or have a post-credit scene where we're introduced to the new versions of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. Maybe someone like Spider-Man goes to Avengers Tower or Avengers Mansion, and then you see the suits and they take off the mask, and that's how they're revealed, the new actors. But I do think that they are coming soon. So this is a very important thing that Marvel has needed. And look, I talked a lot about how it feels like Marvel is making a lot of positive choices to get back on track. This is a big one. So, you know, I'm very happy to hear this news. So what do you think about Kevin Feige finally announcing, yes, we will eventually recast Tony Stark and Steve Rogers? And how necessary do you think that is for a Marvel universe?
Yeah, well, we've definitely very extensively and repeatedly talked about how positive this is, so I almost don't even need to restate how positive it is. But, yeah, I do think it's funny how this statement feels like babying people into the most obvious thing, which is like, yeah, recastings have happened all the time. Of course, like we've seen James Bond and Superman recastings time and time again. But something about Iron Man and Captain America, just like something about it is so sticky with people where they just kind of forget that this is a normal part of movies that has happened forever.
By the way, Chris Evans is not our first Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
There have been other ones before him.
Mm-hmm. So it is funny to need to do like a press statement.
Well, to be fair, this was during a press event for Fantastic Four. Most of this was about Fantastic Four. This was just one piece of the Fantastic Four Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, but still, like you mentioned, I think that if this is voiced, I think that's a sign that it is much further along than, you know, the statement would imply. You wouldn't say that unless you have some. So, yeah, I also agree that it could potentially be as soon as, hinting at it in, like you said, in the Avengers movie. But, yeah, I obviously think it's very positive. Those characters need to be. They need to be in Avengers. They need to be in the multiverse to really make this thrive.
Yes. And, we've heard rumors about how for Black Panther 3, they're already kind of considering recasting T'Challa. So, there's that. So, you know what I think? Because you did bring up an interesting thing about why did people struggle with recasting Iron Man and Cap. It did make me think of something, Because remember the lead up to Endgame, everyone was so excited, like, oh man, one of them could actually die?
Yeah.
I almost kind of think that what happened was, look, when you're 4 years old and you watch these movies, you're like, oh my god, they could die. But, like, once you get to, like, 10, you're like, well, they can't die because they want to do a sequel. I think there was kind of this feeling of, like, don't recast them. Like, if you actually kill them off, like, there's, like, feeling 4 years old again, like, oh, they could actually die. And you know what? It happened. And then when the story continued, people were like, yeah, this is awesome. I feel like I'm 4 again. And then once it happened, people were like, oh.
Yeah.
This kind of sucks now.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah. That's a good point.
So, yeah. But you know what? I think this is a very good sign. One other thing I'll bring up. I don't think they'll play a big role in Secret Wars. Like, if they do appear in Secret Wars, I don't think the new actors would be a big role. I think more likely it would be Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. playing a big role as their characters. And we know this would actually be the final time before they do recast.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, do you think that if they do recast in Secret Wars, would they have a big role, or is that something they would save till the end?
I think they'd probably save it to the end, personally.